This garden here, we didn't grow anything this year in here. We didn't try to grow anything. The squash and the pumpkin that's growing there is just, it came up from seeds that were left over. I was just letting this section here completely rest and grow all kind of wild. You can see the mustard that's growing up in there full of seeds right now. Now, these are a couple of carrots that were left over from a couple of years ago. They were sitting in the ground. I guess when we harvest our carrots, we didn't get to pull them out. And you can see from the Queen Anne's lace that we were picturing out wild in the field yesterday on the farm and along the side of the road. And you can see the little black spot or purple spot in the center, you know, and the nice flowerette. And this is just a carrot that we left grow second year. And it's
a store-bought carrot? Or?
Store-bought carrot seeds.
So that's what this looks like if you let it grow.
You let it grow. And you can see how bushy it is and healthy because the soil's good.
It looks just like the wild carrot.
It's the same family, it's the same plant, there's nothing different. And you can see, you know, when you let your garlic grow a little wild and the summer gets a little dry, here's the garlic seeds we were eating yesterday. If you went down there, there's a bulb down in the ground. Now if you want your garlic to get big bulbs down in the ground, when you see this little curl come up, you break it off before it produces a seed on top, and it will expand the bulb down in the bottom. And then you'll have big cloves of garlic in the ground. And if you want to grow more garlic, now you can take these little seeds and spread them in a line, and then you can propagate lots of garlic. You can either do it either way. Take it out of the ground, separate the bulbs and spread it in a line, or the seeds, you can plant them and you grow garlic the same way. And you know, this is edible right now. You can take these little cloves off and eat them. Or you can just leave them and they'll fall in the ground and grow more garlic for you. Now in springtime, I like to take, when the garlic first starts to grow, it's as the snow is melting, it comes out of the ground very early. I'll wait till the garlic and the chives get about this tall, looking like a grass. I'll take my scissors and I cut it off. And then I'll take a cup, and that's my measuring, and I cut the leaves of the garlic into the cup. When I fill a cup up, I throw it in a little plastic bag, a little freezer bag, and I'll make 10 or 15 of those bags and seal them up and throw it in a bigger freezer bag and just throw it in the freezer. And in the winter time, if I'm making a stew or a soup or a salad or whatever and I want fresh garlic leaves, I just take them out of the freezer, take a handful, they're a little bit frozen, frosty, I just throw it in and I got it fresh, and just like you picked it. So there's many ways of using certain things. Like I said earlier, I will take these, I eat these in a salad every day now because they're in season.
So here you've got strawberry.
Yeah, we have strawberries growing all over the place here. We planted a few strawberry plants, and you know, they spread.
You got squash next to it.
Yes. You can see now the flowers, as you can see there, are edible. You can eat the flowers from this plant all the time.
What's the flower?
You can see a little yellow flower inside of here. So all squash, zucchini, pumpkin, all of those families of plants, you can eat these yellow flowers. So now you don't want to start eating all your yellow flowers right away as soon as they start appearing, because otherwise
fruit.
You don't want any fruit, right? So now the flowers that are extra flowers that you see, some of the flowers start closing up. Those flowers that closed up are going to start going into a bulb and producing fruit. And you can see down here on the plant, right here, there's already a little fruit starting to grow. There'll be a little gourd. This is a gourd family. So there'll be a little gourd growing down there. And we just leave it alone, and by September, October, it'll be ready to pick, and we can have that as a storage food all winter. So these extra male flowers that you have on the plant that are wide open, you can pick those off. So as it starts to produce fruit, your plant starts to produce fruit, and you have all these extra flowers, you can every day pick a few flowers for your salad. So you can have a few of these flowers, a little bit of wild carrot or carrot flowers, the Queen Anne's lace.
What are those ones though?
And this is lettuce. This is a natural lettuce that grows. You can see an example how small it can be, but this is another plant, but the leaves will look similar to this. And I'll show you back there in the garden.
Dandelion.
No, this is not a dandelion. Right. It's a coarser, thicker leaf. And it's from the lettuce family as well, too. So, but this is like chicory. Makes the same flower as chicoria, what the Italians call chicoria. And I like to take these flowers. Now these flowers, I just like to take them like this and eat them. They taste really good. A little bit bitterness, but to them. And you see how they're nice and open because the sun's out. You come here at the end of the day, and as it starts to get dark, these flowers will close up for the darkness. And if you put them in your salad and you put your salad in the fridge, you'll take your salad out and say, what happened to my flowers? They'll close up because it's dark in there. So
where is the actual lettuce part?
The lettuce part is in the springtime. You see, I let some of these grow like this and let them kind of get wild because they'll produce seed, and the seed will fall and I'll have more lettuce.
And then you'll get like this kind of thing.
Yeah. I'll show you it differently so you'll really recognize the plant better. So now if you wanted to, and you had too many of these plants growing like this, you can cut it off. Just cut it off at the root. And the leaves will come back out of the ground, this shape right here. But they'll be a lighter green color and much more tender. They'll be fresh. So when they get tough like this, I still consume them. But it's just a much more coarse, bitter lettuce. Instead of being like this nice little soft, light green leaf. I'm looking for one. So, you know, like, okay, for example here, see this dandelion? See how it's nice and tender and looking? But if you let the dandelion grow and don't harvest the leaves, just like the lettuce, you let it grow and don't harvest the leaves, and it becomes this hard stem plant, the leaves get really tough and hard, like very resistant, so it can produce seed. So if you cut this back all the time on a regular basis, it'll be nice and tender like that, and you'll have this beautiful lettuce all the time. And it grows, and the root of it looks just like a dandelion root. It's very deep tap root. And you don't have to worry about planting this lettuce because the same stalk will grow back a new plant every year. And it'll produce seeds if you let a few of them, and you'll have a patch of lettuce growing, and you don't have to harvest anything. You don't have to buy anything. You'll have lettuce coming up every year as long as you want to have it, until you pull it out and burn it. And that's about it, right? So now you can see the wild mustard. It's getting heavy and barren with seed pretty soon.
Where is it?
This is it right here. This is the mustard. Now, in this plant right here.
Oh, that.
Yeah, this raggly thing here is mustard. That's what you see growing throughout my garden here, all over the place. Now, what I would do if I wanted to collect the seed is take a pillowcase or plastic bag, stick this inside of it. When the seed pods would all be brown like this. Now, if we take one of these and we open it up, you'll see there's all kinds of little black seeds in there. And because it's really not dry yet, it's hard to get the seeds out. So in biblical text, it says, you know, the fitches and mustard are part of that because vetch and mustard are of similar comprehension. These little seeds are hard like little stones. You can chew them and eat them. Taste good. Have a little sting and bite to them, like mustard's supposed to have. Very good for your health. The thing is, they're hard to collect. The birds get to eat them, and they fall on the ground, and you don't get to eat them. So if you take a plastic bag or a pillowcase, put over the top when they're all kind of brown, and you beat it with a small piece of steel, you bang this hard enough, all the seeds fall out in your bag, you pull the stalk out, and go to the next plant. Mustard is one of the best things to prevent cancer in the body. That's why the lowest rates of cancer around the world are basically in India, because they eat curry, and curry is mustard and turmeric mixed together. But mustard, the best mustard in the world, grows in North America, primarily in Canada. We have the best mustard quality of any place in the world. It grows, always grew here. It always probably always grow here. Farmers don't like it, but it's a plant that should be very valued. What most people don't know is the mustard family of plants is what makes broccoli, kale, bok choy, cauliflower, cabbage, all come from mustard. They are grafts. That's why they become biannuals. They make seeds. Like if you have broccoli, you plant it in the ground, you leave a plant over winter, cover it up. The next year it'll come up looking more like a mustard plant, making flowers yellow, like the mustard, and it'll make seeds looking just like this, and then from that you would plant your broccoli for the next year. So they're biannuals, because so what they did was the Chinese started doing this probably 3,000 years ago, so they've assumed from records and that. They would take a mustard plant, and when the flower came out, they took the flower stem and grafted it to the root, and that made cauliflower. And they took the leaves from the mustard and grafted to the root, and that made broccoli or bok choy. So these are being propagated. So a lot of our vegetables are grafts to make bigger fruit, right? Instead of tiny and more powerful.
So this is where broccoli and cauliflower come from?
They all come from the mustard family. They're all Brachus, Brachuses.
That's bizarre.
That's you can document. You can look at that up. Most people don't look it up, but they can look it up and they'll find out I'm right. It's been documented. A little bit of oregano growing, and you have to taste this, Marcus. I just want you to actually. You can film that up there, the nice little flower, but I want you to taste how powerful.
Wow.
Right? See how strong that was?
That's intense.
That's intense. So you see, look at this oregano plant.
Woo.
I mean, it puts your mouth on fire. Yeah, I'm serious.
Wow.
So look at this oregano plant. It was planted here in the strawberry patch maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and this year it's grown the best. So look how hard it's had to struggle. There's a tree growing here. There's some lettuce growing here. It's had to struggle. So it's putting down some deep roots.
It's got fighting spirit.
And look at the energy when you ate just a little bit of the flower, how much power you had in your mouth.
My mouth's on fire.
Behind our sweet basil, which is taking over part of our garden, we got to kind of control this sweet basil. I love the taste of this. I could eat this fresh, ground. I powder it in the winter time, and I add it to every piece of food I eat. I probably put a tablespoon of this in everything I eat in the wintertime a day. I think it's got some great medicinal value for your body. It feels good eating it. I noticed that when I don't put it in food, it's like there's something missing.
Well, it's a great antidepressant.
Well, I wouldn't doubt that. You know, it's full of essential oils. We can taste the flavor in it. It just grows easy too. And something I've noticed, that everything the bees try to propagate and grows with great abundance, like this plant, you can't kill this. It grows from root, it'll grow from seed, it spreads under rhizome on the bottom of the ground, and you have to really work to control this thing. And you can see we have our tomatoes growing like they're not really planted in great spaces. We got the garden tomato cages around them so that we don't have to tie them up so much, but look how tall they're getting. I mean, they're growing up into the hedges here. You know, look, these tomato plants are getting to be 4 feet tall. And look how many tomatoes are in there, and we're not trimming the branches off. Like, you know, lots of people say, well, you got to break the branches and this and that. I've never done that. I was never taught to do that either. I just let the tomato plant grow and tie it up. I had a tomato plant produce 120 tomatoes the size of my fist. And they, well, wow, this is easy to grow a garden. Why do you have to work so hard to cultivate food? It's not a laborious, intensive job that you're doing 24/7. In Canada, we have sour cherries, which were native to this country. Pin cherries are the highest form of quercetin. And quercetin is in all cherries. And quercetin helps your body have more resistance to pain. So cherries are very, very important for your health, especially the wild cherries like pin cherries. And there's been research done in the University of Texas where they've taken the extracts from pin cherries and applied it to tumors on the skin, and the tumors just basically fall off. I gotta show everybody that I collect trees, because trees to me are a valuable resource. So here's a juniper tree that we dug out by our air conditioner because it was getting too big to be beside the house. So in the springtime, I dug this tree out, and I'm going to plant it on this new farm property I bought, because juniper berries, like I said before earlier in the front, are a very valuable tool. The needles of this tree were used in hospital rooms from the 1500s and maybe even earlier. They were putting them in rooms and burning them as incense to kill bacteria in rooms. It's so much documentation on the juniper tree. It really is a valuable tree to have around. It's good medicinal things. You can make the needles into tea. Here, mulberry tree. I collected this one out of the back garden. A neighbor gave it to me and planted it there, and I want to plant it on my farm. The mulberry tree, the fruit, the birds, boy, if you're not careful, the birds and the squirrels will eat everything from it before you do. So you must be vigilant. And I love making jam from this tree and eating them fresh. I gorge myself when I get it close to a mulberry tree. Black, white, and red, doesn't matter. I eat as many as I can. And the leaves I collect in the fall, and I dry them and I use them as tea. And you can tell the way the mulberry leaf looks like. There's very, very hard to distinct, you know, to miss it. When the tree is small, it looks like this. As it gets bigger, the leaf comes more round shape. And we can show you a tree, a bigger tree probably, growing on the sidewalk around the corner here. But the leaves are good for heart conditions, cholesterol, liver problems. It's been known to help people with cancer, digestive issues. There's almost nothing that the mulberry leaf and the bark and the gum resin boiled as tea cannot help alleviate from the body. Okay, the rhubarb is a valuable plant to have around your house. You cannot eat the leaves or the roots. I wouldn't eat really down deep into the red of the root. You know, cut up about, say, this high, like you break it off, and then break this off. And you can chew. It's very sour. When we were kids, the old people used to eat it with salt, not sugar. And you can eat it with salt or sugar, but the old people used to eat it with salt, a little bit of salt, and eat this. It's very good for your intestinal tract, cleans you out. Rhubarb contains pectin. So if you're preserving any type of food where you're cooking something, and I know most people are against that, but if you are, rhubarb is something good that you can add to it because your food will not spoil. It just won't. This preserves it. And if you'll notice, if you plant a rhubarb plant, you will notice this for sure, that automatically it produces 2 crops for you in the year. It will start early in the spring producing a nice rhubarb crop for you to harvest just before strawberries are ready and other berries that you could put in to preserve them. And then you'll harvest that crop, and then it'll produce another crop just before the apples and other things will come into season. So if you wanted to make rhubarb applesauce, or you wanted to put other things together with that, you can have a preservative. Nature provides you these simple systems in a real organized manner that is so easy if you just pay attention. Spend, 20 minutes of your time once in a while sitting down and watching what's going on around you in nature. You'll get to learn things and pay attention as you're harvesting or doing stuff. One of the things I've got to notice, with plants, it grows in like kind of a succession, so that the one thing you need to help preserve this is available in enough bounty that you can do that. And for example, my apple tree here, this type of apple tree, it didn't produce very many apples this year. It was just a very low production. But this type of apple tree here produces apples like biannually. Last year it had a pretty good crop. This year it's kind of mild. It didn't have too much. Next year probably it'll have a bumper crop. So your body has to be the same way. You don't need so much of certain thing for certain year, because the weather is going to dictate, basically your environment dictates that, so what you need to eat to prepare you for the upcoming season. So this year, I guess around this area right here, we won't need so many apples. At my farm, you're going to need tons of them. So this is stuff I kind of pay attention to. I'm getting my green folate from pine needle tea and cedar tea and spruce tea, and I'm getting green stuff. I'm making tea from sumac cone for vitamin A. This thing spreads. It's everywhere around here. Over there, in the shade, in the light, in my grass. I didn't plant them. They're just free food. And they're here for our benefit. Now, I was telling you about the lettuce earlier, the purple lettuce. And you can shoot over there and see the purple flowers. Right over there, Marcus. Behind you. See? Now, here's the same plant right here. See how the lettuce is small? Same plant. The seed fell, starts to grow like this, really tiny. And if you keep harvesting from this, it'll stay tiny like this, but you can't kill it. You can't kill this lettuce. See, the leaves, you know, will fall off and die if you just pull them away, right? Pull it down. So you can pull off the leaves and just kill it off. And then you'll see, you'll get the leaves come back like this, nice and tender. Nice and soft and tender. See? Here it's just soft and tender, nice little leaves. So if you pull it all off, it'll regrow back again. So you can continuously have a lettuce supply without any work. Here it is again. This is a dandelion.
It's like your grocery store.
Better. I don't have to spend any money. I don't even have to spend money in gas to get there. It's right here. So here's my spinach growing. See this spinach? I'll show you more over there, but look, this is spinach plant growing here. Now I won't touch this one. I won't even eat something from it. I'll leave it there. There's another one growing right here. See? They fell from seed. This type of spinach grows every year from seed. And I'll just let it grow, and it'll grow really tall, 6 feet high, and it'll be full of seeds. And when it starts to get enough seeds on it, I start to pick them off and dry them, so I have spinach seeds to eat in my stir fry in the wintertime. I have them all the time. I have seeds in the house, and I have the fresh leaves for 6 months of the year. You can see my spinach plant here and how the birds like my spinach just as much as I do. As it's starting to make the seed flowers, just the tiny little seeds, we have so many bird houses around here, and we've been helping the birds live. They're eating all my flowers off everywhere. They're eating the ends of the leaves. See, they're eating. But this plant will survive and still produce enough seed for me to harvest without a problem. And yesterday in our salad we had spinach leaves in there as well. And I love eating it fresh like this in a salad. And this I did not buy or even plant in my garden. My Italian neighbor has it over there. The birds brought the seeds here. And when the first year we used to have like a greenhouse cover here, and it was so warm in there, this stuff grew like crazy. I thought at first we were growing marijuana plants, because when it first starts growing in the ground, it looks similar to a marijuana plant or sunflowers. And we couldn't really tell. And then somebody pointed out it was spinach, and I've been using it ever since. And you'll have to remember, spinach made Popeye the Sailor a very strong man. So it's a valuable resource that I didn't pay for, came for free. This is what they all call lamb's quarters. I pick these leaves and I eat them fresh, or I put them in salads. All these little seed pods on here that you see, they'll turn like a whitish purple in another month or so. The goldfinch will actually sit upside down on this thing, and he'll be picking these seeds off. And when I see the birds hanging around these plants, I go around with a bowl and I pick off these seeds too and some of the leaves, and I let them dry inside my house. And then in the winter time, I just toss them into food. This is very good. My grandmother, when I was a kid, would never make soup unless she had these leaves in it. She had some around the house in the winter all the time. She took these leaves here, these bigger leaves, she collected them by the pound, and she would never make soup without this leaf. And in the springtime, when it first starts growing, the stem, the leaves, and everything are very, very tender. So you can break the plant off, like probably right down close to the ground, and you don't have to worry about killing it because it'll regrow. From a few plants, you'll have a fieldful. This just grows. That's the spiderwort flower. that I was talking about earlier, and you can see it's a 3-petal flower, and it's got tiny little yellow spot in the center. These flowers are older now because it's pretty soon the end of the flowering season, but that's a very edible flower. It's fantastic. As a matter of fact, I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm going to pick it off just like this, and if you want to watch, I already put it in my mouth, and I think there's another one over here, but it's not big enough to pick. It's kind of dying. But anyway, I love eating these things. I put them in salad all the time. They just make it look like artwork. It's just fantastic food. Okay, I wanted to talk about ferns too. This is a king fern. It grows throughout northern Ontario. We transplanted a few ferns around the property here. And the king fern is one of the primary sources of fiddleheads, which people harvest in the springtime. Now there's the single fern, single branch fern. I think we have some around here as well. This fern, when it starts growing in the springtime, it just looks like a fiddlehead coming out of the ground, this shape. And it'll have like a little fuzzy cloth over it, like looks like a cotton. You can just pick that off. Eventually the fern will pop out of that anyway. When you pick that off, and you have this fantastic little vegetable that you can eat, but you cannot eat ferns raw. You have to cook them. That's one thing about it, but it is a great vegetable. It was used primarily by native culture. And I discovered in recent years, because I brought Korean people to my property up in northern Ontario that I met, they wanted to go pick barely speaking English people, and they would say, I want to pick fiddlehead. So I brought them up in northern Ontario, and they picked the fiddleheads. They lightly dip them in hot water, then they dry them and they grind them into powder. What I've been learned to explain what they do. And because in Korea, ferns are the fiddleheads are a very valuable resource, very valuable food, and they say the ones that grow in Canada taste a lot better than what they have back home. So that they grind them into powder, and then whenever they're cooking food, they add that powder to their food, like a condiment. It's added to the food all the time. They say it helps to emulsify and break down bad fats in the body. So I know we've eaten a lot of ferns, and the single fern that doesn't grow in a clump like this, it's just straight one fern up. I like to actually cut it off close to the bottom, and we chop up the stem like green beans, and they taste very similar to green beans when they're steamed. My youngest daughter just loves to eat that, you know, with a little bit of butter and salt. It's just fantastic. And in India, they take the rose petals and they grind them up into a powder, and you can go to an Indian store, for example, and you can buy rose petal milk. It's like a powdered milk, but it's liquid form in a big jar. In India, they use rose petals for all kinds of stuff. I've learned that from doing research and talking to different people. But I use the flowers fresh. I love it in a salad. It has a nice taste to it, and it looks, again, like artwork. When we grow enough food, we always save seeds. When we're cutting fruit open, or peppers, like in this case, we're always keeping the seeds. We've been keeping seeds for 15 years now, practically. At least 10 anyway, or more. And so we have our own seeds. And, you know, we take the little gardening trays that people throw out and stuff like that, and garbage day, and we've collected them all. And we put a little bit of dirt from our backyard in, put the seeds inside, and set them outside, and you can see the results. We're growing plants without any effort. I mean, we didn't have to try to grow those. They grew on their own. This is very, very good medicine for cold and flus. The root primarily, but I've also used the flower and take them out, and the flowers and the leaves, and crush them and dry them and use it to make tea. If you're sick or you have some cold or flu, it's very, very good. It really does help the body. This is just growing here by itself, some yellow dock. There's been lots of documentation on this. Some of my neighbors use it. They come from Italy. They call it dog's tongue, because the leaf, when it starts growing in the springtime, looks like a dog's tongue. They use it to remove sores from, or pimples and problems from the skin. Well, the seeds were made into an oil resource in the 1800s. This is a form of cabbage, like rapini from the mustard family. It's like a broccoli. If you look at it, you'll see that it has a little broccoli-like type flower in it, right? Tiny, tiny little flower. And if you taste it, it tastes like broccoli or cabbage leaves. This is what the leaf looks like in the springtime. this same cabbage family leaf. And you can see there's some more over here. You know, the plant is not as old, and it's still got the seeds on it. And if you turn it over, you know, it's a typical cabbage leaf. Now, I went and did some work for a couple, and next door in the springtime, when I was at this person's house, I saw this line of cabbage-looking leaves about this high, and it was like in April, the end of March. It was really early in the season, and I couldn't believe how fast someone had their plants growing in the backyard. And the woman went on to explain to me that it was a form of cabbage or broccoli, and like rapini, and they planted it every year in August. And I thought that was kind of strange. But she said, well, you know, it grows early in the spring and it starts to make all these seeds, and then you take the seeds and you plant them again at the end of August, and it starts growing back again, and then it doesn't really die over the winter time. It just kind of goes dormant and stays kind of green in your garden, frozen, and in the springtime it starts growing again, and you got a crop to really eat in springtime. So I planted, she gave me a few plants, and I planted a few, and the seeds have fell, and it's been making a little line here. So now I have this, I've collected some seeds already, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bag and put over the top here, because now it's getting really, really ripe. And you see, if you take one of these pods and you pull it apart, all the seeds are going to fall out easy, right? So what I'm going to do, I'll throw those on the ground so it grows some more. I'm going to collect these seeds, and I'm going to put a line at my garden in the farm. I'm going to put a line down, and they'll start growing. So by September, I'll have nice green cabbage leaves to eat and consume, and to make pickled cabbage or whatever I want, sauerkraut. And then basically next spring, as the snow is melting, I will have this crop ready to eat. Green vegetable growing, like before I even get to plant something, I'll have stuff 6 to 8 inches high, ready to grow, already growing. So it's something that people can do, and it's very easy to do. Doesn't take a lot of work. This, you can see it spread all through my garden here, everywhere. And if you look around, you've noticed, I'm sure you'll notice, my gardens really look like a mess. I let them kind of grow wild this year. I didn't have enough time to take care of them because I was busy taking care of doing other stuff. But at the same token, I will still have enough food from here, free, without even trying. Like, I'm eating every day from this place, and there's no lack, none whatsoever. This is the prickly lettuce here that you have down your way.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, it grows everywhere in North America. So, you know, I just like, when I pick flowers off, I like to make sure there's no bug inside. So I put it in, chew it. You want a little flavoring with it, you know, cabbage leaf. This bugle boy is a ground cover. We have it in the front, and we kind of let it grow wild, and it gets really thick, so the leaves don't stay small and tender. Because I run the lawnmower over here, I just, my hand lawnmower, a little manual one, I keep it cut down so it stays nice and tender, so you have a great source to eat. In the front, when we let it grow a little wilder and it makes these purple flowers, the one thing I noticed that struck my interest is when it's in flower, the bumblebees are just polluted on it. They are stuck to it like it was the best thing in the world. And that's what started me investigating if it was edible. So through the internet and looking in books and asking questions here and there, and I found out it is an edible plant. So then I started experimenting, eating it, just picking it up and putting it in my mouth and tasting it. And it has a nice taste to it. Very good. As you can see, the beautiful flowers here in the background on our Rose of Sharon. I wondered for the longest time if this was an edible flower, and what I started paying attention to is, you know, it makes a seed capsule in the fall, stays on all winter, and you can see the extent of the old seed clusters. They're ready to fall off here. You can get some of them shown in, and there's no seeds in them now, but I noticed the birds in the springtime, as the seeds would be falling out of this, or they'd pitch on the tree here, and they'd pick at it and they'd start eating the seeds. So I started taking the seeds and just eating them and tasting them, and I'm still here. And then recently we discovered through a web page on the internet, when we typed in Rose of Sharon to see if it was a poisonous plant, we found out that the flowers are edible and the seeds are edible. Through the University of Colorado, they have a web page, and they said that it's edible, and I've been trying them, and you know, they're beautiful to look at, and I think they're a fantastic food.